Outsmart Imposter Syndrome, Ch.2 Still the Storm. In 2013, researchers at the Asada Business School in Spain conducted a remarkable experiment. They wired up MBA students to sensors to measure their physical and mental activity, then had them work through a case study as a group. The researchers filmed all the interactions and documented how the students solved the problem. They were searching for clues to what makes an outstanding or transformational leader. The conclusion was not what you might expect. The outstanding leaders in this experiment were not those who talked the most or had the best ideas. The outstanding leaders were the ones who could best regulate their nervous system. That is, the ones who could remain calm, creative, and open-minded throughout. The study demonstrated that neuroregulation is an essential skill for good leadership. Unfortunately, imposter syndrome is a prime disruptor of neuroregulation. It makes it hard for you to stay calm and therefore impacts your leadership performance. This physiological symptom of imposter syndrome has a dramatic negative impact, not just on your leadership, but also on your energy, health, mood, performance, productivity, and focus, and your enjoyment and satisfaction at work. For this reason, learning to regulate your nervous system is the first step in outsmarting imposter syndrome. In this chapter, we'll explore the physiological stress symptom, what it looks like, and how you can manage it. Activated nervous system. When faced with life-threatening danger, our nervous system gets activated and goes into one of three defensive states: fight, flight, or freeze. This normal, natural response to potential danger is a fundamental survival mechanism without which you and I wouldn't be here because our ancestors would have died out many thousands of years ago. Let's take a look at each state in detail, seeing how a neurological response that was essential to our ancestors might not serve us so well in the modern world. Fight state. Rewind about 50,000 years ago to the Paleolithic times. Brack is a physiologically modern human, but his everyday life is vastly different from our 21st century one. Walking through the subtropical rainforest, Brack comes across a small troop of baboons. The startled baboons advance aggressively, shrieking and baring their sharp teeth. Together, they could seriously injure or kill Brack. Brack responds immediately. He grabs a fallen branch and swings it towards the advancing monkeys. Standing up as tall as he can, he roars at them. The baboons back off quickly and dash into the undergrowth. Brack continues to shout at them and wave the branch around even after they've been driven off. Panting, he then slowly calms down again. Brack's nervous system had immediately gone into the fight state when he saw that he might be attacked. Fight is a defensive nervous system state, driving you to attack to protect yourself and survive a threat. Physically, you feel heat that you might describe as a fire in your belly. You might feel your cheeks going red, notice muscle tension, clench your fists or your jaw, all accompanied by a racing heart and increased blood pressure. Stress hormones of cortisol and adrenaline are released into your bloodstream to help your muscles react quickly in your defense. The related emotions are anger and irritation, and you may become more emotionally reactive than usual. In this state, you might lash out physically, or want to, although in modern times you're more likely to lash out verbally or intimidate others. You might say things that you don't mean, blurting out personal attacks and low blows. Kim, Chief Executive Officer of a fintech company, recognized right away that her go-to nervous system state was fight. When challenged, she would become defensive and then try to intimidate people and be aggressive towards them. She was unyielding when she thought people had done her wrong, and even had a list of enemies, those she'd had a conflict with and would never forgive. She would escalate, argue, then burn bridges and torch relationships. This behavior was costing her dearly, both personally and professionally. It made her tough to work with, and she knew that she'd lost friends, support, and opportunities in the past because of it. Kim recognized how much this pattern was hurting her, not only her career, but also her industry influence, which in turn directly affected the company. It stopped her from being as effective and therefore as successful as she could have been. To compound her frustration, She seemed unable to break the pattern. Kim's automatic angry reactions felt like they were outside of her control. Flight state. Brack takes a short break after his encounter with the baboons, then continues along the forest trail. He hears a rustle and catches sight of a smooth black shape slithering through the undergrowth. Brack leaps back immediately and then takes several rapid steps away, his eyes fixed on that shape. Soon enough, a large black snake slides across the muddy path. Brack recognizes that it's a poisonous snake whose bite could be fatal. His heart is racing again and he's breathing hard. The flight state is the urge to run away or avoid things. Brack acts fast, not because he's thought about the situation, but because his body and nervous system reacted automatically. This instinctive reaction keeps him alive, which is more than can be said for his brother Yun, who had died from a snake bite as a teenager. If Yun had had faster reflexes, he might have lived. In the flight state, you literally want to run away or disappear. You might feel this state physically as cold hands and feet, a racing heart, shakiness in your limbs, or a buzzing in your belly. Again, stress hormones are released into the bloodstream to help ready you for escape. The emotions of flight are anxiety and trepidation. Modern versions of flight can be avoiding people or situations, not wanting to go to work in the morning, or withdrawing in situations where you can't physically leave. It can lead to you simply quitting, which can affect all areas of life, including your family, your job, and your community. Hannah, the chief product officer at an international cybersecurity firm, was due to deliver a high-stakes presentation to an important client. She'd done this many times before, but something seemed different this time. She procrastinated in creating the presentation, then spent long hours over preparing, and she worried about it for weeks. She became more stressed and exhausted as the meeting drew nearer. Just 3 days before it, she marched into her CEO's office, quit her job, and left the same day. Hannah was not thinking at all about career planning, financial commitments, or family repercussions. She was purely reacting to her overwhelming stress. Her nervous system was driving her to run away. Her CEO was mystified because he'd consistently praised Hannah for the great job she was doing and had no idea she was so stressed. Free state. Shaken and wary, Brack carries on through the forest, looking carefully around for more dangers. He hears a deep, low growl of a tiger nearby. Brack immediately freezes. He doesn't move and he holds his breath. Like all cats, the tiger's attention is drawn to sudden movements and noises. By freezing completely, Brack might just escape the tiger's notice. He stays where he is for quite some time, motionless, with just his eyes scanning the forest around him, his ears listening out for any more signs of the tiger. The tiger had been stalking a deer, and after Brack freezes, it resumes its original hunt. After what seems like an age rooted to the spot, Brack hears the tiger chase the deer some distance away. Slowly, Brack starts to move again before hurrying away in the opposite direction as quickly and quietly as he can. The freeze state is the rabbit in the headlights moment. You feel stuck and hold your breath. Your muscles may seem weak and difficult to move. You might feel nausea, loss of appetite, or brain fog. Your mind might go blank and you may not be able to remember key facts and figures. Emotionally, freeze can feel like overwhelm, numbness, or panic. James was in a boardroom meeting when the chairman suddenly turned on him, blaming him for recent poor results loudly and aggressively. James was used to passionate outbursts in top-level meetings. He saw it as going with the territory. But this time, he was stunned, not only because it was unjustified, but more so because the chairman had always been a supporter and mentor to James. So it was a total shock. His mind went blank, he felt sick, and he couldn't speak or move for what seemed like an age. Finally, he excused himself and went to the bathroom to splash water on his face. What had just happened? James had never experienced this before and was as shocked by his own response as by the chairman's sudden attack. James's nervous system had, in fact, gone into the freeze state. Do you recognize any or all of these nervous system states? All of them have an out-of-control feel to them, which makes sense because you're not in control. The nervous system states get triggered automatically by signs of a threat. Your physiology takes over, correctly so as it's working to preserve your life like it did for Brack. He may have felt a little foolish if on his way home he'd jumped back quickly at another snake only to realise that it was an old tree root. But it was better for his nervous system to be overactive rather than underactive, which could cost him his life. These ancient survival mechanisms echo down the ages and are still fully functional in our bodies today. However, this response isn't helpful in the modern world where we rarely face life-threatening situations. You may have a clear recollection of one big incident triggering fight, flight, or freeze, or you may notice a repeating pattern and find yourself in those states again and again. This physiological stress is distinct from thought-based stress, such as worry or regret. Cost of nervous system activation. When your system goes into the fight or flight state, the blood flow in your body changes. Extra blood is diverted to the muscles, readying them for fighting or running away. This blood is taken from the peripheries of your body, your digestive system, and the prefrontal cortex in the brain, which is the logical thinking and strategic planning region that lies just behind your forehead. With a reduced blood flow, your prefrontal cortex literally does not have the resources, the oxygen and the nutrients that it needs to make good decisions and control emotional reactivity. Your thinking becomes foggy, you're distracted, lose clarity, and your scope of creative thought narrows. You're unable to perform at your best when your body is stressed in this high alert state. A 2012 Princeton University study found that a person's intelligence quotient, IQ, is temporarily reduced by an average of 13 points when they're in this state. Typical IQ lies between 75 and 125. So 13 points is a lot of smarts for anyone to lose access to. When you're in the fight, flight, or freeze state, your brain is actively looking out for dangerous situations and views even neutral events as potential threats. That is, you'll feel more wary, hostile, untrusting, and suspicious. You feel like you're out of control with an activated nervous system, and you realize it's detrimental to you, your work, and your relationships. You might conclude there must be something wrong with you. It undermines your confidence, increases self-doubt, and it reinforces the imposter syndrome thinking that maybe you're not good enough after all. Continual high stress levels change the chemical and hormonal signaling in your body, create stress-related illnesses, lower your immune response, and contribute to the major chronic disorders of our time, such as atherosclerosis, heart disease, diabetes, and cancer. Many people take antidepressants or medications for stress, anxiety, and sleep issues in an attempt to regulate this chronic nervous system activation. Alternatively, they self-medicate with alcohol, drugs, food, and other addictive escapes. Indeed, the top 20% income bracket has a higher proportion of alcoholics than the rest of the population. This suggests high levels of stress accompany the highest levels of achievement. Polyvagal model. These dramatic changes in your physiology can be explained by the polyvagal model of the nervous system. The vagus nerve, which is actually 3 interconnecting nerves, links the brain to the body. It carries instructions for fight, flight, and freeze to the rest of the body in moments of perceived threat. The command to shift from one state to another comes from 2 small almond-sized parts of the brain jointly called the amygdala. The amygdala filters incoming sensory data, looking out for matches to scenarios it would label as dangerous. In the case of our caveman ancestors, such dangers would be a troop of baboons, a snake hidden in the grass, or a prowling tiger. To take a modern day analogy, the amygdala is like a computer virus checker that searches your email for dangerous viruses before they reach your inbox. In the same way, the amygdala checks for dangers that it determines could hurt, damage, or kill you. The amygdala receives information coming up through the brainstem before it reaches the prefrontal cortex. Whatever information the prefrontal cortex receives, the amygdala is checked at first. This means that when your nervous system is being triggered, the information has not yet reached the prefrontal cortex for evaluation or assessment. The amygdala has already reacted. Psychologists call this an amygdala hijack because it's taken over your body without your conscious consent. Whenever you notice you've been triggered into fight, flight, or freeze, you might be tempted to criticize yourself because you're not in control. However, that's because your logical brain never had the opportunity to think about it or exert conscious control. Such nervous system activation is a normal, natural part of your body's defenses. If you know how to manage and regulate your nervous system, however, then you'll be able to stay calm and in control with all your wits about you. With this neuroregulation, you will gain the advantage that the ASADA research team showed makes an outstanding leader. Neuroregulation. The first step to proactively regulating your nervous system and staying calm is to become aware of when it is triggered. Notice which nervous system state your body goes into most often. It'll tend to follow a similar pattern most of the time. If you do nothing when your nervous system gets activated, it could take 1 hour or more for your liver to filter out the stress hormones and for your system to calm down again. That is a long time to feel that you're out of control, emotionally reactive, distracted, not thinking clearly, and physically stressed. Ideally, you need to get out of this activated nervous system state as quickly as possible. Here are a few ways to do this. Shaking out. To manage this activated state, you can do what animals do when they have stress hormones in their system. Imagine a deer that's just escaped a chasing lion. Once the deer stops running and realizes it's safe, its muscles twitch while it's standing still. This is the natural way an animal flushes out the stress hormones from their blood, and it works well when adapted for humans too. The human version is to shake out the stress hormones, stand up, and start moving your hands as if you're flicking thick mud off them. Do this quite vigorously, making it a big movement using your arms and shoulders. Shake faster while bouncing at the knees. Shake out one leg in the same way and then the other leg. Next, wiggle your back as if you're a wet dog shaking itself to get dry. Do all of this for a minute or two until you're breathless. When you stop, you're likely to feel tingling. Once you've shaken out the stress hormones, do slow, deep breathing to calm your nervous system even more. There's a great breathing technique the Special Forces use for this called the box breath. Breathe in for a count of 4, hold for a count of 4, breathe out for a count of 4, hold for 4. Cycle round for a few times until the tingling has gone away. Next, use your senses to connect you to the environment. That is, look around you and pay close attention to what you see. Look at colours, shapes, and different objects. Listen to the sounds around you and try to identify each one. Focus on the sensation of touch by noticing the temperature and texture of surfaces with your fingers. Feel the pressure of the seat or floor wherever it touches your body. Cross your arms and stroke yourself from shoulder to elbow like you would pet an animal. By deliberately reconnecting your senses to your environment in this way, you quickly get your nervous system even calmer. Shaking out like this is excellent when you're in the fight or flight state. For the freeze state, you need to unfreeze yourself before you can shake out. To unfreeze, start with the same slow, deep breathing and then gently move your body slowly. Stretch and splay your fingers and toes. Then spread this movement to your arms and legs with long, slow stretches. Stand to stretch and twist your torso. If you find yourself yawning, go with it and make it a big yawn. Wake up a frozen voice by humming long notes, all the while maintaining steady, deep breathing. At this point, if you feel a bit tingly, energized, or anxious, you can do the shaking out process. If not, you can skip straight to connecting your senses to the space around you. You now have several powerful techniques to regulate your nervous system quickly. Use them whenever you notice your nervous system has been activated. Also use them if you're about to go into a stressful situation to get yourself as calm as possible beforehand. Maintain calm. When people get stressed, everything can suddenly feel urgent and time-pressured. They often stop doing the things that are good for them because self-care appears to be less important in the face of immediate demands on their time and energy. However, at times like these, it's even more important to get calm and stay calm. To do this, list the things you already know relax you. It could be that you enjoy reading or listening to music. You may like to meditate. It could be you love dancing. And indeed, any exercise, even a walk around the neighborhood, is a great way to help calm your body. Look at which social events relax you. Decide whether you prefer spending time in a group with just one person or alone. Seek out community, support, activity, and social groups for more connection. Singing is a wonderful way to relax as it gets you breathing rhythmically. If you do this in a community environment, such as a choir or karaoke, the social connection enhances its positive effects. Music can have a profound influence on your physiology too. It's likely you already know which songs make you feel good. Create a playlist of songs that specifically influence your nervous system state in a positive way. Build your neuroregulation maintenance plan comprising everything that calms you, and then schedule it into a regular routine. This solid foundation continually brings you back to a calm state and allows you to stay that way for longer. The fellow state. There is another nervous system state identified by the polyvagal model, the social engagement state, or as I call it, the fellow state. The fellow state is the default nervous system state when we're not feeling under threat, because humans are social beings wired to cooperate and survive together in a community. When you go from the stressed state back to the fellow state, you regain access to your full mental capacity as normal blood flow is returned to your brain's prefrontal cortex. You naturally feel cooperative, safe, open, and creative. You're able to think clearly. Emotionally, you feel calm and enjoy things more. You laugh more easily and feel physically relaxed. Your brain also takes cues from others as to whether danger lurks nearby or not. The nervous system of the people around you can communicate safety, i.e. no danger, and acceptance. If they're relaxed and feeling safe, then it helps you to relax and feel safe. So talking with somebody supportive and making eye contact is a great way to get into the fellow state too. Regulate yourself. The neuroregulation tools of shaking out and maintaining calm mean that you can regulate your nervous system whenever you need to, becoming more in control, more productive, more focused, and more creative than before. You'll be able to think clearly and make good decisions by virtue of being in the fellow state. It's important to remember that an activated nervous system is a normal process that has been triggered by a perceived threat. It's not your personality, a weakness, or a flaw. This realization helps remove a whole layer of self-criticism and helps to stop the cycle of negative thinking from re-triggering the nervous system. Instead of judging your nervous system state, you can see it as an event that happens in your body that you now know how to handle. This alone brings a huge sense of relief as you feel more in control and you stop the physiological stress symptom from reinforcing the imposter syndrome thoughts of not being good enough, which in turn helps you relax. You could stop at this point and practicing your new awareness and neuroregulation skills, you would gradually make your life calmer and more stable. But we have a lot further to go with more gains to be won. As you witness your nervous system response, you might get curious as to why your nervous system has been triggered in the first place. If you knew exactly what triggered your amygdala, then you could make plans to manage your environment so that you get triggered less. This is another big step to dialing down imposter syndrome. We'll look at managing your external environment in detail next.